plot. When it comes down to it, it is the most important thing in an anime. It doesn't matter the story you're trying to tell, the genre you're telling it in, all that matters is the plot. And whether or not that plot manifests itself as a bunch of combat or a bunch of, high school DxD-ness, it's universally accepted that nothing should get in the way of plot. By the way, this feels like as good a time to mention I got a second dog. His name is Wagyu, and we love him. Which means even beloved characters shouldn't get in the way of plot. However, the problem with beloved characters sometimes getting in the way of plot is that plot has to get them out of the way. And the way that most beloved characters end up finding themselves in the crosshairs of plot is by being too powerful. If a character so powerful is introduced that nobody in the universe as they currently stand could get powerful enough to kill them, that character is directly in the way of the plot, which means that character is now the next to go in the story. Whether that be by the main character getting an insane power-up that somehow makes them stronger than the person in the way of plot, or the person who is insanely powerful gets a nerf. Now, obviously, we massively prefer to see the main character get an insane boost that somehow makes him stronger than the person who seemed unbeatable. It basically happens in all shonen. It happened with Aizen in Bleach. It happened with Naruto and Sasuke in Naruto. But while we're talking about Naruto unfortunately has probably more circumstances where an insanely powerful character got nerfed to move them out of the plot than any other anime I can think of, with the only other possible exception being Demon Slayer. Anime only folks, you haven't gotten there yet, don't worry about it. But what are these circumstances where an insanely beloved and powerful character gets nerfed through plot? Well, there are three very important separate circumstances where this happens in Naruto. The first of which is Kimimaro, who dies from an unexplained illness in his battle against Gaara in Rock Lee. The second circumstance is Itachi, who dies from his unexplained illness in his battle against Sasuke. And the third, and probably most important example of this in all of Naruto, is when Madara gets his back blown out by Black Zetsu. All three were characters who at the current time of their death in the manga or the anime pretty much seemed unkillable until the plot stepped in and, finished the job. And while arguably Madara's death was the most important out of these three, I would say the one that gets talked about the most is, ironically, Itachi's. And this is probably because, one, Itachi was massively beloved, two, his death was unexplained, and three, at least in the case of Madara, we saw why he died. I mean, we know exactly how and why Madara died. It was very clear cut. But just like with how the fascination of JFK's assassination still burns within this country to this day, because of the mystery around it, Itachi's death is no different. So today, I hope to answer the question that unfortunately I can't answer for JFK by making a video explaining just how Itachi died. We're gonna go a lot further in depth than just saying plot killed him or that he got ninja aids. No, today we're gonna be using evidence not only brought forward through the manga and light novels, but also real life medicinal knowledge to figure out exactly how Itachi died. Because today, we're talking what killed Itachi? By the way, if you hear crunching in the background of today's video, that's because the new dog has a lot of anxiety. We've only had him for 2 days, and I want him in the room, otherwise I feel like he's gonna go around and do dumb shit, so I had to give him a bone. But the problem is I have 2 dogs, which means Neutron also needed a bone. But Neutron wanted to be near the new dog because they're best friends. So now I have 2 dogs munching bones on the same bed behind me. So if you hear crunching, I'm a single dad. Before we get to diagnosing a fictional character with a disease from the real world, guys, please, for me, like this video, subscribe to the page, and hit that noti bell. And my diagnosis will be sad if you guys don't follow my other YouTube channel, The Weeb Commander, where instead of talking about Naruto or Boruto, I talk all other anime. And my diagnosis will be even sadder if you don't follow my anime podcast, called Otaku's Anonymous, that I do with Danny Mata, where me and him break down everything that happened in anime this week. It's available on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. So, chakra illnesses, plot disease, ninja aids. Itachi had something. And for long as Itachi's character has existed, the memes revolving around his disease have also existed. However, we as a community have kind of just signed off on the fact that Itachi was killed by an unknown disease, and that's it. We all realized that Itachi was so powerful that it was probably better for the plot that he didn't exist anymore, and therefore Kishimoto killed him off. Because while I don't believe that a full-powered Itachi would have been able to solo Madara, a full-powered Itachi definitely would have been a problem and would have shaken up the 4th Great Shinobi World War. On top of that, a full-powered Itachi would have beaten beaten Sasuke in a fight until basically the 4th Great Shinobi World War. So his death was used to move the plot forward, and it was said that during that fight he was substantially nerfed with a disease that he took a bunch of medicine to cure. But how much do we really know about that disease? Well, fortunately, in the case of Itachi, we actually know a lot more about his disease than we know about, well, let's say Kimimara's. However, obviously, the case of what killed Itachi isn't as obvious as Black Setsu punching a hole in his chest. So the information revolving around Itachi's death lies somewhere between Kimimaro and Madara. But that still doesn't mean that there's a lot of information about his illness, because there's absolutely zero information about Kimimaro. So that being the lower end of our spectrum, not a great place to start. See, we actually didn't even know that Itachi was sick until Sasuke woke up from killing him. Obviously, in Itachi and Sasuke's battle, Itachi didn't look great. He was coughing up blood, gripping at his chest, believed to have a heart attack, and then eventually, died. But us as the viewers were just as in the dark about Itachi's illness as Sasuke was in that moment. That's why that moment is so incredible. We become privy to the fact that Itachi was one of the good guys at the same time as Sasuke. And it was from Obito that we learned that Itachi was dealing with an illness that required he take multiple different kinds of medication to extend his life long enough so he could battle against Sasuke and have Sasuke believe he killed him, because Itachi wanted Sasuke to gain enough power to kill him and also get revenge on the man that he believed massacred his entire family. See, Itachi actually technically never wanted Sasuke to know the truth about him, which is why he programmed his own eye to react to Amaterasu upon seeing Obito, because Itachi obviously knew that Obito knew the truth. Obito was right there with him, massacring the entire Uchiha clan. But so far as the manga goes, that's actually all of the information we get about Itachi's illness. Just a couple of panels of Obito saying that Itachi could have killed Sasuke whenever he wanted to, but he wanted Sasuke to believe that Itachi was a bad guy up until the end. But fortunately for us, and by us I mean me and you, the viewer, I am a nerd, which means I've consumed every bit of Naruto content on Earth, which means I've also read one of the least known light novels in the entirety of Naruto's light novel connection, Sasuke Jinraiden. See, Sasuke Jinraiden is a light novel about Sasuke after his battle against Itachi, and it takes place after he killed Itachi and awoke in Obito's lair, but before he took Itachi's MS, because there's actually about 20 to 25 days in there. Now, this light novel actually gives us a much deeper look into the conversation between Obito and Sasuke. Specifically, this conversation and then the rest of the light novel key us into how Itachi was treating his illness. See, during this light novel, it's revealed to us that Obito and Zetsu extracted Itachi's eyes to give to Sasuke and then buried Itachi's body. But in this battle against Itachi, since Sasuke had killed somebody incredibly close to him, Sasuke also awoke his MS. And awakening your MS is very painful. It causes a massive amount of irritation to your eyes. And therefore, in order to soothe the irritation to his eyes, Obito offers Sasuke Itachi's eye drops. And at this point, it's revealed to Sasuke that Itachi had been using eye drops from a certain village, which we'll go over here in a second, to not only cure the irritation to his eyes through extended use of the MS, but also extend his life. But what are these eye drops? Where did they come from? And how do they work? Understanding all of that gives us a significantly better look at what Itachi's illness was. Well, fortunately for us, Itachi still had the receipt for the eye drops on his body when he was battling against Sasuke. And therefore, hoping to give Sasuke a little bit of closure and also have Sasuke get more eye drops to soothe his eyes, Obito gives Sasuke the receipt, which leads Sasuke to the Howling Wolf Village, which is where Itachi got the eye drops. And at this point, it's revealed that Itachi had been using a thing known as Kotaro, which is a powerful drug synthesized in the Howling Wolf Village. Now, Kotaro is actually a drug synthesized from a Saigenzai, which is a drug, but not a medicinal drug like a heroin, cocaine, weed drug. Oh god, I know I'm gonna get some comments being like, weed is a plant. But essentially, Saigenzai are used in the Naruto universe to induce genjutsu onto yourself. It's a hallucinogenic drug, just like acid or mushrooms, used by ninja in the Naruto universe who suffer with things like PTSD or simply just want to forget about the lives they lead, which is a terrifyingly accurate comparison to the real world. However, if you take this Saigenzai and you refine it, you create Kotaro, which is a medicinal drug, not a hypnotic genjutsu inducing drug. Now, the way that Kotaro is made is that members of the Kodan clan who live in the Howling Wolf Village have to consume a plant that lives around their village. Upon consuming this plant, they're able to excrete Kotaro. So essentially, members of the Kodan clan act as a refinery to turn a plant into medicine. And this medicine comes out in 3 different iterations. It can be refined, medium, or coarse. The refined being the weakest version of Kotaro and coarse being the strongest version. Think of them kind of like painkillers, refined being something like Tylenol or ibuprofen, medium being I don't know, something in the middle, and then course being Oxycontin. Apparently, I don't know a lot of painkillers, which is a good thing. Now, just like with painkillers, if you take the weaker versions of painkillers, you probably won't have any side effects. However, if you take the stronger versions of painkillers, you'll definitely be able to get rid of worse pains, but you'll also have side effects. Well, it's revealed to us when Sasuke goes to the Howling Wolf Village that Itachi has been using the coarse version of Kotaro. Specifically, he's been using the coarse version of Kotaro as eye drops to not only cure his eye irritation, but also extend his life. And while technically these eye drops did accomplish both of those things, curing his eye irritation and extending his life, they also came with the side effect of making him temporarily blind, but not like overusing your MS temporarily blind, like he would go full blackout for a couple of seconds and then his vision would come back to it. This is something that Sasuke realizes when he uses the coarse version of Kotaro on his eyes to cure his MS irritation. So now, not only do we know that Itachi was sick, we also know how he was trying to cure his sickness. However, unfortunately, eye drops created from the secretion of a specific clan in a middle of nowhere village doesn't really help us cut any closer to the answer of what was Itachi's illness. We just know that by using these eye drops, he was able to extend his life long beyond its natural expectancy. However, while that technically doesn't key us into what Itachi's illness was, it does point us in a certain direction, specifically in the direction that whatever Itachi was suffering from, the overusage of his MS was definitely not helping. See, well, obviously eye drops can be used to cure all kinds of diseases, as your eyes are incredibly vascular and porous, and it's actually very easy to get medicinal drugs into your system through the medium of your eyes. Just unpleasant. Most doctors, and specifically ophthalmologists, eye doctors, would only ever try to cure eye diseases with eye droppers, which leads me to the conclusion that Itachi was using eye droppers filled with coarse Kotaro because the overusage of his MS was accelerating his disease. On top of that, there's a possibility that these eye drops actually halted the blindness brought on through overusage of the MS, because we know out of every Uchiha we've ever seen awaken the MS, Itachi has definitely used it the most, at least as somebody without regeneration hacks to make sure that the eye never goes blind, like Obito. And therefore, while we obviously understand that overusage of the MS does lead to blindness, it's also implied that overusage of the MS also will kill you, especially if you're somebody like Itachi who already has a weak constitution, as well as low chakra reserves. So unfortunately, what we can extrapolate from the one bit of information we do have about Itachi's illness is that more likely than not, it was being made worse through the usage of his MS, but he was taking steps to nullify that. So knowing what we know, what was Itachi's illness? Well, let's approach this like any doctor would. Let's analyze what Itachi's symptoms are. Itachi's symptoms were coughing up blood, chest pain, fatigue, lack of stamina, aka chakra, and temporary blindness brought on through the use of his eye drops. Now, if we take the temporary blindness out of there, because obviously that had nothing to do with his actual disease, with those symptoms and those symptoms alone, we can make a pretty good and pretty calculated guess at what Itachi's illness was. Unfortunately, somebody a lot smarter than me has already drawn a hypothesis on what Itachi's illness was. See, a lone Redditor who must be in medical school or something speculates that Itachi suffered from MPA, also known as microscopic polyngitis. Without getting like insanely deep into medical terminology here, MPA is what happens when the antibodies in your body attack the small blood vessels in your body. And this can unfortunately manifest in any part of your body. And while usually this is a disease that only affects people between their 50s and 60s, it has been stated to have affected people younger. Because these small blood vessels are under attack by your own antibodies and therefore your own autoimmune system, it causes these blood vessels to swell and become damaged, which causes a lot of internal hemorrhaging. And while, like I said, this disease can manifest in any part of your body, in those who have it manifest in their lungs, aka their pulmonaries, which are blood vessels in your lung which are key in oxygenating blood, the key symptom seen in these people is the coughing up of blood, which makes sense if you think about it. If the blood vessels in your lungs become inflamed and damaged, they're gonna leak blood into your lungs, which you will then cough up. Those who have this disease manifest in their lungs also have shortness of breath, fatigue. You see where I'm going with this. On top of this, while battling against Sasuke, Itachi also has another symptom, the grasping at his chest, which makes it appear as though he's kind of tanking his way through a heart attack, which is also not uncommon in those who struggle with MPA, as the breaking down of important small blood vessels within your heart can lead to a heart attack, or at the very least, some rather intense heart pain. We also know from Itachi's databook entry that he was incredibly fatigued and had low stamina, which we could just as easily tie to MPA, because his rampant shortness of breath and therefore inability to train physically would cause him to have a low amount of physical stamina and chakra reserves, as a large part of having a large chakra reserve is also having a large amount of physical energy, because chakra is the combination of spiritual energy and physical energy. Therefore, if you're not strong and don't have a lot of physical stamina, it's going to be hard for you to manifest a lot of chakra. I guess the beauty of MPA, well, not the beauty of MPA, as it is an autoimmune disorder, it can manifest itself pretty much anywhere in the body, which actually leads people who believe in this theory to surmise that the reason that Itachi places his arm in his jacket like this is because somehow putting his arm in that position nullifies pain that he feels in that arm because of his autoimmune disorder. However, if I do remember correctly, the reason that Itachi wears one of his arms outside of his cloak is because he's modeled after a Ronin, and Ronin, whenever Ronin and Samurai existed, would wear one arm out of their cloak, like Jin in Samurai Champloo. The reason they would do this is to signify the fact that they had no master. Itachi could just as well be considered a samurai for Konoha, who no longer had the master. Konoha was now a Ronin, and therefore would wear one arm out of his cloak to signify such. But it also could be because of an autoimmune disorder. What do we know? Hopefully we're driving our way at more because of this video. When you tie this possible autoimmune disorder into just what was going on in Itachi's life, that is to say, the massive amount of stress that Itachi lived under for the 18 years he was alive, as every second of every minute of every hour in Itachi's life was led living a double life, as Itachi from the age of 4 was brought onto a battlefield of the Third Great Shinobi World War where he realized that war was a horrific thing and he wanted to be a pacifist, but he was born with an insane amount of power and as the son to the head of a clan who was actively trying to secede from the village they were within, and therefore Itachi's entire life was automatically steeped in possible war, something he was diametrically opposed to from the age of 4, and therefore in order to evade this war, Itachi became a spy on his own clan for his village, but then was betrayed by his own village in the way of Danzo, forcing him into the Uchiha massacre, where he had to cut down his entire family, all of his friends, his girlfriend, in order to avoid a large-scale war between two of the most powerful forces in the entire continent that would then leave Konoha vulnerable to outside attack and would lead to the deaths of hundreds of thousands of people, all in order to save his little brother, who he needed to believe he was evil so his little brother could become strong enough to live in the brutal worlds they were being raised in. Tie that into the fact that he was a spy for the Akatsuki and therefore had to use his MS every time he came into a battle against the strongest people in the universe, the Jinchuriki. However, he needed to manifest MS abilities that would allow him to take out the opponent instantaneously so fights wouldn't drag on. So he awakened things like Tsukiyomi and Amaterasu, one-hit kills. But if the fact that he was battling against some of the strongest people in the universe for a cause he didn't believe in, there was also people within the Akatsuki who were trying to take over his body. Honestly, man, Orochimaru has a terrible track record for picking little boys to try and get, and I hate how I worded that. Like, is he getting them sick, or is he just like attracted to sick? There's no good way to say any of this. So when you tie an incredibly stressful double life into overusage of the MS and a possible autoimmune disease, what do you get? Well, a short life, and a life that should have been shorter, actually, with the only reason Itachi living as long as he did was so that one day Sasuke could kill him. Well, so what was Itachi's illness? Well, honestly, we can speculate. It's not like Kishimoto's ever going to come out and give us an official medical diagnosis, but what we do know definitely is that he overused his MS, and that in his lifetime, he tried to put too much on himself. In fact, when he came back as Edo Itachi, he told Naruto that Naruto shouldn't try and do everything himself, warning Naruto of heading down the same path that Itachi had traveled, as Itachi understood how draining and how possibly deadly trying to do everything yourself can be, advising Naruto to lean more on others. And if Itachi, after his death, understood that trying to do everything by yourself could be deadly, then it's pretty safe for us to assume that him trying to accomplish everything by himself probably played a role in his death. So stress, evil eyes, and a bad autoimmune system. That's all it took to take out one of the strongest people in the universe. But Itachi, even though he died of some mystery illness, serves as a pretty good lesson. And it's why I'm not upset that he died of this mysterious chakra illness. See, Itachi's death at the hands of something as menial as a disease is supposed to teach us something. And that something is, regardless of how powerful or how all-knowing or how godlike a human might seem, everybody is vulnerable. You might be hailed as the strongest ninja in all the lands with abilities that can one-shot an enemy simply by looking into their eyes. But if you don't take care of yourself, you'll shorten your life. You might be peak Anbu Itachi right now, but if you don't take preventative steps in your everyday life to make sure you're as healthy as possible, you won't be that way for long. Because while we all might feel bulletproof and we all might feel as though we're the strongest person in the universe, we're all human. I think Itachi dying to impart that lesson to all of us is about the best thing he could have done. But what do I know? I just got a second dog 2 days before VidCon, so clearly I'm not making the best decisions with my life. What do you guys think killed Itachi? Tell me in the comments below. And while you guys are down there, please, for me, like this video, subscribe to the page, hit that noti bell.
But look at him.